I thought there was one deal, and I woke up this morning. Turns out there was another deal in the NBA. Marcus Smart, apparently, is now it's the Grizzlies who get Marcus Smart from the Celtics in a 3-team deal. I don't think that's the headline.
Can I wrap up the total deal for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Boston receives Kristaps Porzingis, who opts into his $36 million contract for 23-24. They get the 25th pick tonight in the draft from Memphis, and they also get a 2024 first-round pick as well. The Grizzlies, who are sending Tyus Jones to Washington, receive Marcus Smart, who I think adds a lot of value to the culture considering Ja Morant's missing 25 games due to his suspension. The Wizards receive Tyus Jones, plus the 35th pick from the Celtics, Danilo Gallinari, and Mike Muscala. I think it's a win all the way around. Look, obviously, the Washington part we will unpack in a little bit, Max, because they have just unloaded two of their biggest pieces in both Bradley Beal and now Kristaps Porzingis. But I think for Boston, you get a guy that had one hell of a year last year, probably had his best year since he's probably been in the league, and unlocks Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Now, with this second apron, which you're hearing a lot of NBA teams talk about with the new luxury tax that they can't go over for Boston, these are the type of tough decisions teams have to now make, right? You can't carry that type of load on your roster with a guy like Marcus Smart. You have to make that decision. So by letting go of Marcus Smart, Derek White has to be activated, which he has been. He's been their third best player, I think, for a major part of this year and in the playoffs. So now with Kristaps Porzingis for this one-year deal that he has, it unlocks Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and pick-and-roll situations. How many times have we talked about those two not being complementary towards each other? So it unlocks them. You get a 7-foot unicorn at the rim that can play alongside the likes of Robert Williams.
7'3". Yeah.
7'3",
yeah.
Right? 7-foot unicorn plus.
Yeah.
I love this for the Boston Celtics.
I love it, too.
It's a great move.
First of all, Marcus Smart, I know what this is going to sound like for a second because maybe I'll be very wrong and it's disastrous for them, right? I think, in a way, this might be addition by subtraction because he's a good player. But for a team like the Celtics, Jay, he might be just good enough to be dangerous to them, right? To prevent, when you say unlock your best players, maybe his personality, he's in a way a dominant player when he's on the court, even though his actual talent is not pitched as high as theirs, right? I think a guy like Kristaps Porzingis, maybe it's because I watched him when he was with the Knicks carefully when he was younger. But, man, when he gets on the court, at least back then, the whole offense for the other team changed because he's 7'3". He's a shot deterrer, and he can shoot from the outside. And for a guy his size, he can defend in space considering he's 7'3", right? Like, that's a lot. I was looking at his just numbers from last year. He played 65 games.
Yes.
That's, like, nowadays, that's considered like a full season. 65 games. And, look, I know different stats and this and that. I could tell you averaged 23 points and 8.5 boards and this many blocks and a block and a half. But the interesting thing to me, the reason I'll look at PER sometimes is player efficiency rating, the Hollinger stat, is because it takes into account a lot of the classical stats people like. And usually there's a strong positive correlation between guys with higher PERs and the guys you think of as MVPs, right? Usually if a guy's PER is above 20, you think of him as a